29 wins, 0 losses. I mean, think about that. It's a record that just sounds impossible, right? Especially in a sport as brutal as mixed martial arts. So the big question is, how did one guy pull off perfection? Well, that's what we're here to do. We're not just going to recap the career of Khabib Nurmagomedov, we're going to deconstruct the actual blueprint that built a legend.
And this quote right here, this pretty much says it all. This is the key to understanding the whole thing. For Khabib, it was never, ever just about the money or the next win. It was about something much, much bigger, something permanent, a legacy that would last long, long after he hung up the gloves. All right, so here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll start with his origins as the Eagle of Dagestan, then dive into the master strategy known as the Father's Plan. After that, we'll track his unbeaten rise to the top, his reign as champion, and what he's up to now in life beyond the cage. And we'll wrap it all up by looking at his enduring legacy. Okay, let's get into it. Every legend has an origin story, right? And Khabib's is, well, it's something else. Forged in the mountains. So let's kick things off with section 1, the Eagle of Dagestan. So you have to picture this. He was born in a place where struggle is just normal. The village of Sildi is high up in these rugged mountains. And that terrain, it wasn't just a place to live. It was basically a built-in training camp. It's a huge part of why he had that legendary cardio, that ability to just completely suffocate his opponents. And then, of course, there's the story, the one that's become total MMA folklore. A 9-year-old Khabib wrestling a bear cub. I know, it sounds absolutely nuts, but there was a reason for it, a very specific one. His father, Abdulmanap, he wasn't trying to make him the strongest kid. He was trying to make him fearless. He wanted to get rid of that primal fear of being overpowered long before Khabib ever stepped into a ring with another person. You know that bear story? It's the perfect window into the mind behind the fighter. And that brings us right to the absolute core of this whole blueprint. Section 2, forged by the Father's Plan. So what exactly was the Father's Plan? Well, a lot of people just think it was about wrestling, about takedowns, but that's not even half of it. It was a whole philosophy. It combined the physical training with psychological conditioning and, crucially, his faith. The goal wasn't just to build a fighter, it was about building the man. And you can see just how methodical it was when you break it down. Look at these stages. From age 8, it was all freestyle wrestling, building that solid, unbreakable base. Then at 15, boom, they add judo. Why? To master the clinch, to learn how to use an opponent's own energy against them. Then came combat sambo, which brought striking into the mix. By the time he hit his 20s, he had this fully integrated, absolutely devastating system ready to be unleashed on the world. Okay, so you have the plan, you have the philosophy, but how did it actually work out in the real world? In the cage. That brings us to section 3, the unbeaten ascent. I mean, just look at this trajectory. He starts his pro career in 2008 and just rips through the regional scene, gets to 16-0 before the UFC even picks up the phone. Then he gets to the big show, gets a dominant submission in his debut. But then, later that year, he hits a wall against Gleison Tibau. We'll talk more about that in a second. But you see the path, right? He faces a tough challenge, learns from it, comes back to break records, and it all leads to that championship in 2018. 21. Just let that number sink in. 21 takedowns in a single 15-minute fight. It's not just a record, it's practically a statistical impossibility. It's the perfect illustration of that suffocating, relentless pressure we talked about, a pace that literally no one else could keep up with. But yeah, it wasn't all just smooth sailing. That fight against Gleison Tibau I mentioned, it was a massive wake-up call. For the first time, Khabib ran into someone who could actually stuff his takedowns. Now, he still got the win, but the fight showed a crack in the armor. It forced him and his father to go back to the drawing board, to diversify his attacks. And honestly, that fight made him 10 times more dangerous. And that evolution is exactly what led him to the absolute pinnacle of the sport, which brings us to section 4, reaching the summit. This is where the Father's Plan finally, truly came to fruition. When he finally won that belt in 2018, it was so much more than just a sporting achievement. He became the first ever Muslim UFC champion. Overnight, he went from being a dominant fighter to a genuine global icon, representing literally millions of people around the world who had never had a hero at the top of this sport. And then, at the absolute height of his fame, at the peak of his powers, he just walked away. After his father tragically passed away, he promised his mother he wouldn't fight again without him. That image of him, collapsing in the center of the octagon after beating Justin Gaethje, It's one of the most powerful, raw, and human moments you will ever see in sports. He chose his word, his family, over all the fame and money in the world.
So what happens after a legend retires at the top? Who is Khabib today? Well, the story didn't stop there. Let's get into Section 5, Life Beyond the Cage. He didn't just fade away, he pivoted. He's become a full-on global entrepreneur. He's got his own MMA promotion, Eagle FC, a restaurant chain, a state-of-the-art gym in Abu Dhabi, even a water company. And this is really important, he's pouring money back into his home region, building a high-altitude training facility right there in Dagestan. But just like in his fighting career, his business life hasn't been without its own challenges. Recently, in 2024, reports started coming out of Russia that tax authorities were scrutinizing his businesses, even freezing some accounts and creating some pretty serious financial pressure. And in what seems like a direct response to that pressure, news broke that he had made a major strategic move. He reportedly obtained UAE citizenship, effectively shifting his home base to the Middle East, a global business hub that also happens to be a tax-free environment. So when you put it all together, what's the big takeaway? That brings us to our final section, an enduring legacy. Because as we've seen, it's about way more than just a perfect record. The whole blueprint, really, it rests on these 5 pillars. First, family. That incredible bond with his father was the foundation for everything. Faith, which was his source of unbreakable mental strength. Discipline. A work ethic so relentless it was almost pathological. Humility, never forgetting where he came from. And finally, legacy, that constant desire to inspire the next generation.
And really, who could say it better than the man himself? He wanted to show people that it doesn't matter if you're from Dagestan or Africa or anywhere else. If you believe, you can be the best. That right there, that message goes so far beyond fighting. Which really leaves us with one final question to think about. What is a true legacy, really? Is it the perfect record, the 29-0? Is it the dynasty of champions he's building right now as a coach? Or is it about the principles you never, ever compromise on? I'll leave you with that.